I am Alán Aspuru-Guzik, Professor of Chemistry and Computer Science at the University of Toronto. I'm also a faculty member at the Vector Institute for Artificial Intelligence.
So, hi, good afternoon, Dr. Aspuru-Guzik. It's a pleasure to have you as our guest for I Am a Scientist series. To start off, since your lab works on artificial intelligence, could you introduce us a little bit more about what is artificial intelligence and how is it different from human intelligence?
Oh, you got philosophical because we will have to get into what is intelligence. But I would like to say that the aim of the field of artificial intelligence is to replicate whatever intelligence is in a machine rather than it being done by a biological system.
Awesome. Thank you for your explanation. So building on your answer, how can AI be applied to solve some of the biggest challenges in the 21st century?
Of course, AI as a field is a very large field. The particular areas of AI that my lab works on are machine learning, robotic process automation, and in those two areas in particularly use technology like deep learning and Bayesian methods, okay? So I'm not gonna say that even though the field is extremely large, I'm gonna just talk about those three particular subfields. But you asked me a huge question. The huge question is, what are we gonna be doing for the 21st century, right? I like to think about the problems that humanity is facing that have to do with stuff around us. I like to call it matter. And I like to call it matter because I'm thinking about molecules, I'm thinking about materials, I'm thinking about polymers, etc. Right? Composites. All of these things that surround us have to be made with lower energy, more greener, and integrated into a circular economy to be able to change the way we live in a sustainable way due to the challenges of climate change. There's also, for example, even small molecule design in drug discovery, a huge problem for trying to heal all of the diseases that we have already out there and create new vaccines, for example. All these type of areas have to do with physical matter. So I like to think that the intersection of material science, chemistry, chemical engineering, and AI is a very fruitful field to try to solve those problems.
How interesting, really, from your explanation to see that AI and material science have so much potential in changing our everyday lives, like you mentioned, medicine and helping our ecosystem. So could you give us some more specific examples to what are some AI's biggest achievements so far?
Sure. One of the achievements that I was involved with that I really like to talk about is a collaboration I had with a company called In Silico AI, where the challenge was to see if we could find an inhibitor for a family of kinases, the DDR1 kinase, in a quick time, right? Using AI, our generative models that ideate what a molecule could potentially be a good therapeutic molecule, all the way down to bringing it down to making and testing the molecules. And in 46 days, this collaboration with In Silico and WuXi was able to actually find such lead candidates. That's an example. But other examples that I also have been involved that have been really exciting is, for example, in collaboration with the University of British Columbia, we built a little robot that is actually making whole transport layers for organic materials and optimizes them extremely efficiently, replacing the work that humans do by hand very tediously, but also optimizing over it in an intelligent way using AI. Those are two of the examples, but there could be others where my lab has been lucky enough to collaborate or lead discoveries using AI in material science or chemistry.
That's super fascinating to see the field of AI and how it advanced so quickly. And thank you so much for giving us some background on the field and your vision on the future of AI technology. So I guess out of curiosity, the question I have for you is, how did you first become interested in science?
I got interested in science very early on. When I was 6 years old, my parents gave me an encyclopedia because I kept asking them questions about how the world worked. So my dad one day found an encyclopedia on sale, and he gave me an encyclopedia. And my mother likes to tell the story that a few months later I came back and I told my mom and my father, I just read the encyclopedia, so I want to start reading it again. So I guess it's kind of that drive I had always to try to find more about the world. So I also like computers a lot, and eventually I ended up doing the two things I like. I think my dream job now at Toronto is a professor of computer science and of chemistry, which kind of combines two of my intellectual loves.
Awesome, and super cool to see you. You have a lot of curiosity and passion for science. So now you mentioned you are a professor at University of Toronto. And so from where you started to where you are now, did you face any hardships on your career path?
I was just talking to a graduate student just today, and of course, every day I talk to grad students and postdocs about the ups and downs of the academic career, right? I would like to say that all of us have faced the frustration of a scientific problem not working. And I like to tell all the young scientists out there that to remember that it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work. When it works, you publish a paper and it doesn't work again. So obviously, when I was a graduate student and an undergrad researcher and so on, I was in the it doesn't work part. And then now as a professor, it's a little bit easier because you get to see just touch points in the doesn't work part, but then you get the rewards of editing, writing the papers when it works. So I just have to always remember and be empathic of that time when you are the one that's carrying a lot of the labor of our work, and how frustrating can it be that something is not working and you're trying to fix it and you're nervous about being with your advisor because you don't know what they're going to say, given the fact that you haven't made progress. And it's always, I think, good advising style to kind of backtrack with your students and postdocs and remind them how hard it is what they are doing, how important it's going to be if we achieve it, and just provide perspective that, ultimately we're doing this because we're having fun and we should have fun doing the science.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then a lot of time from the public perspective, scientists always have good results, good data, but what they don't see, it's behind the scene where everything fails and you have to repeat yourself and redo your experiments. So something I'm also interested is that another role you play, aside from being a university professor, you're also an entrepreneur. So can you talk a little bit about why you've decided to found startups?
Yes. So how I decided to find startups is interesting. I have a ultimate sense of mortality because when I was 19, I had a car accident and I was in ICU for a while, and maybe I couldn't make it or not. Since that 19-year-old activity, I really naturally now I tend to think that life is super short and we don't really realize it, or like unpredictable. So I really want my things to happen when I'm alive. I really want to see the impact of what I'm doing. So there is an arch, right, of basic science and applied science that is kind of blurred. There's also an arch between the university and the commercial world that is also blurred. It's not like things are in boxes. It's more like they are ingredients in this multidimensional space. And I like to see the things that I'm coming up with actually reach the market and impact the world. So two of the main areas that I work with, quantum computing and also AI for materials. Just before moving to Toronto from Boston, I decided to launch two companies with my former group members and try to push them forward into the world. And it's kind of an interesting place because then it allows some of your students and postdocs to move to that new company. It allows me to see how the pressure from the real world works, what exactly does it mean to get funding and get results in the short term, and makes my work varied every day. So I really enjoy it, but also I see more tangible outcomes of what I like to do every day as well.
Yeah, I really love your explanation. Things are not just a box, and a lot of the field can be overlapping. And I really think your career trajectory breaks some stereotypes that a lot of the public have for scientists, is that your role is not only limited to a classroom or a laboratory. And so now going back to your career path again, you mentioned you started your career in Boston at US. And when you decided to continue your career, you had the opportunity to basically go anywhere in the world. And from a previous interview, you mentioned that a big reason why you choose Toronto was that it was such a diverse city. So can you elaborate on how diversity among scientists contributes to scientific success?
Of course, how diversity contributes to scientific success. First of all, people that do science come from everywhere. The creativity comes from Tanzania to Bangladesh to my own Mexico to traditionally scientifically strong countries like Germany, right? All the way across all of them, right? And I would like to think that you want to be in a country where people from as many countries as possible are welcome and easy to get visas, easy to come. Also that the native population actually is supportive of others, and that obviously no society is perfect. We just had a huge bouts of anti-Asian racism in Canada coming up. So there's a lot of work to be done, but I think Canada, and in particular Toronto, are pretty advanced societies where what I like to be happening is happening, which is a more integrated society where everybody is together. And I think that translates back to your question into the lab in terms of just being able to have a team of creative scientists coming from all over the world, having fun doing science together, not worried about what's going to happen to them when they're working in the street, or if they're going to have healthcare or not, or things of that sort, right? That's kind of solved here. So it's kind of a very nice privilege to be in the beautiful city of Toronto doing science.
Yeah, I completely agree with your ideas. And this is a recurring theme that I Am a Scientist series really try to promote, to show students and our future generation that it doesn't matter what background they're coming from, they can still have the passion to pursue science, and they can all be successful. So to end this interview, the last question I have for you today is, do you have any advice for kids who may be interested in STEM?
Yes, for the kids, I think the most important thing is to follow their own adventure, right? So do not fall in stereotypes and imagine a scientist is this or that. If you want to be a scientist, you should be a scientist the way you are. So there's no good or bad way, or particular features that will make you a good or bad scientist. We have scientists that are good at math, not so good at math, or could be better at math, or scientists that are good at this or that. So it's not even the grades or your past experiences. What matters is your motivation and where you're headed to. Especially young people don't realize that most of the learning is ahead of them, even if they think they already have learned a lot. In reality, they have learned so little. What they're going to learn is going to be all the way in the future. And therefore, it's more important that they have the passion in the place that they like, and that they find what they like. And I think something that my parents did very well with me and my brother was let us explore where we're going to be. And my brother is now a software engineer and a musician. He didn't finish college. He's extremely well doing music, and has his band, and also develops software. And I ended up being a scientist that after college went to do a PhD and a postdoc, and then I couldn't take enough of the university, so I became a professor at one university, now at another one, now at an institute here, the Vector Institute, my virtual background. And to make the story short, I think to the young people, I think we want to just remind them, we're all scientists, no matter how we are. Some of the scientists are extroverts, some of them are introverts, some of them are this way or that way. So there's no good or bad personality or background to be a scientist. A scientist is an activity that you will do with passion. And then within science, you will find your exact role. There's many roles, and one important thing to think about is not all the scientists end up in the university as a professor. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of other things scientists can do, like work at the startup companies, work in policy, work as engineers later, or move on and become politicians. And I think I recommend the young people to know that the scientist is a very career opening path where a lot of things happen just by gaining knowledge.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Aspuru-Guzik.